Hey guys, in today's video I bring you an absolutely shocking and impossible to ignore story. Let's meet Logan Turner, a 13-year-old boy who died more than 12 minutes after a terrible accident and came back with a terrifying vision about what's about to happen to the world. According to him, Jesus wasn't smiling, and what he revealed about the year 2025 could change everything you think about faith, time, and eternity. So before we start, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any content like this. Oh, and comment below which city you are watching this video from, because I want to see how far this message will reach. Now get ready, because what Logan saw on the other side will shake your soul. My name is Logan Turner. I'm 13 years old, and I live with my mother in Spokane, Washington. I never thought my life would end before high school. I never thought I would see Jesus himself, and that he wouldn't be smiling. It all started on a freezing Friday in February 2025. The school had suspended classes because of the blizzard, and my mother dropped me off at my Uncle Josh's house. He works as a train operator on the old Mill Creek rail line, which now serves only as a maintenance track. I always liked trains, so I begged to go with him that night. It was one of those silly decisions that seem normal, until they change everything. Shortly after 10 p.m., we were inside an old locomotive making a round of the frozen tracks. I remember feeling the train vibrate beneath my feet, the mesmerizing sound of the iron wheels cutting through the snow. That's when I heard this snap. A dry metallic noise. Something was wrong with the tracks. Josh screamed, tried to brake, but the train skidded and tipped over. The world turned upside down. There were screams, smoke, and then silence. I was thrown out of the cabin. My body hit the snow hard and, according to the doctors, my heart stopped for exactly 12 minutes and 9 seconds. During this time, paramedics were trying to revive me, but I wasn't there anymore. I was somewhere else. I remember the exact moment everything became calm. There was no pain, no sound, just a feeling that something much bigger than me was happening. As if the universe held its breath. I floated above the accident scene and saw my body lying in the snow. I saw my mother running to see me, crying, screaming. But there was something even stronger that was pulling me out. It was then that everything went dark. But it wasn't darkness as we imagine. It was alive. It was like a silence that watched. I felt naked, not in body, but in soul. Every lie, every hidden thought, every moment of arrogance, everything came to light. I was being examined, but not by human eyes. Ahead appeared a corridor of dense smoke, and at the end of it a presence. Something so holy, so intense that my spirit began to tremble. I didn't walk towards him. It was as if time itself was pushing me towards the inevitable. That's when I heard the voice. Not as sound, but as if every cell of my being was listening at once. They're not ready. Tell them, Logan. 2025 will be the divider. Many won't cross. That voice carried eternal weight. And it was just the beginning. I didn't know yet, but heaven was trying to send me back with a message that would burn my soul forever. The feeling of being taken away increased with each second. It wasn't like flying or floating. It was like being sucked into a force that knew every part of me. I didn't see my body anymore. Everything that was Logan had been detached from the world. But what came next wasn't the heaven we learn about in Sunday school. When I passed through the corridor of smoke, I arrived at a space that I cannot describe with human words. It was like being in a desert made of frozen time. The ground was gray, the air was dry as iron, and the light. It wasn't light, it was a sick light. I didn't walk, I just was there, and I felt everything. Millions of presences around me, none with bodies, all conscious. Some were crying, others just lamented in silence. The first thing I noticed was the loneliness. But not the loneliness of being alone. It was the loneliness of having turned away from God. As if every soul knew exactly what they had lost. And the worst, they knew that it was their fault. I saw faces. Not with eyes, but with the spirit. Young, old, children. A girl of about 8 years old stared at me, She didn't say anything, but I understood what she meant. I thought I had time. That's when the atmosphere changed. That spiritual desert shook, and a fiery crack appeared in the gray sky. It wasn't hell, but it was his limit. It was at that moment that a bee of light went down. He wasn't human, but he wasn't monstrous either. Was a messenger. His eyes seemed to be made of restrained thunder. When he spoke, I felt as if the spiritual, earth itself vibrated within me. You don't belong here yet, but you need to see. They're sleeping and time is up. I was pulled again, but now, not up. I was thrown forward to another place, deeper, heavier. And then, I saw churches, but not how you imagine. I saw crowds singing, eyes closed, hands raised, but their hearts were empty. The words were beautiful, the instruments were in tune, but the sky didn't listen. Why? Why there was no true delivery. It was just performance. It was just ritual. And then, he appeared. Jesus. Not like in paintings, not like in stories. He was made of living glory, liquid fire, light that breathed, love that burned. And he cried. Yes, I cried, not with human tears, but with such deep sadness that I started to cry too, even though I didn't know why. Jesus looked at that crowd and said without moving his lips, "They sing my name, but they don't know me. 2025 will be the last call." At that moment, my soul broke. I screamed inside, "What will happen?" And Jesus replied, "The door is closing. The false light is coming, and many will embrace it thinking it's me." I wanted to run away, but he wasn't finished yet. What was I about to see would change everything. Jesus stood before me like a mountain made of light and fire, and yet, there was tenderness in his eyes, not weak tenderness, but a sadness so heavy that it seemed to crush even the air around it. He looked at me with that presence that penetrated every layer of my soul, and then he said, "The deception will be sweet, and therefore it will be deadly." When those words echoed, the environment around us transformed. It was as if he had opened a window between the worlds. I started to see the future. It wasn't a vague prophecy, nor a strange movie. It was real. Earth in 2025, but not with natural eyes. It was as if I saw the heart of things. I saw bustling cities, people with cell phones glued to their faces. I saw influencers talking about peace, love, healing. But something was wrong. It was all too beautiful. Everything is too superficial. I saw a world conference broadcast to millions. An elegant man, with a calm voice and magnetic gaze, said, "Unite. Religion is division. God is in everyone, in everything, whatever you want to call it." The crowd applauded, but behind him, there was a shadow. This shadow didn't scream. It didn't roar. He used to smile. And Jesus whispered, "That will be the mistake. And those who don't really know me will call it divine revelation." I saw churches celebrating this new time. Pastors taking crosses off the altar to not offend. I saw services without prayer, praise without tears, closed Bibles, the name of Jesus replaced by words such as energy, inner light, universal divinity. Everything was very palatable, but it was honey-tasting poison. And then I saw something even worse. Children like me, swept away by the flow. Teenagers surrendering to what seemed like freedom, but was spiritual captivity. Entire families being marked with a false light that shined on the outside but was darkness on the inside. And Jesus cried. They didn't listen while there was time, now they will be seduced. I felt such a strong pain in my chest that I thought it would disappear right there. But Jesus held my soul, without hands, only with the Spirit, and said to me, "You will come back, Logan, and you will tell them, the time for playing church is over. The spirit of deception is already among you." I screamed. I didn't want to go back. I wanted to stay there with him, even in that divine sadness. But Jesus looked at me firmly and said, They listen to the little ones. And you will be my echo. At that moment, I heard a sound coming from far away, a sound that sounded like a clock breaking, one tic-tac being crushed. The weather was breaking apart. That's when I started to fall, back, away, for the body I had left in the snow. And even as I fell, his voice echoed within me. Tell them. 2025 will not be like other years. Judgment begins in the house of the Lord. Coming back was the most painful part, as if my soul, now filled with a burning light, was forced to fit into a body that no longer served. It was like wearing old, torn, dirty clothes, after having tried on the fabric of eternity. My heart started beating again at 10:36 p.m., they told me later. But what I remember is the cold, a cold that cut like a blade. I opened my eyes with difficulty and saw red lights flashing. Screams. People running. He was lying in the snow, covered by a thermal blanket, surrounded by paramedics. My mother. She was kneeling next to me, her face bathed in tears. She held my hand and prayed, but it was a different prayer, a prayer that I heard from the other side. It was as if her faith had pulled me back. I tried to speak, but my throat hurt. The world seemed denser, heavier. Everything around had lost some of its shine. I looked into her eyes and whispered, "He's not smiling, Mom." She turned pale. And then, as if everything I had experienced fell on me like an avalanche, I began to cry. Not physical pain, but spiritual pain. Why, I knew what was coming. I was taken to the hospital. The tests showed that there was no brain damage, no signs of permanent trauma. But something in my eyes wasn't the same anymore. One of the doctors called me a walking miracle. But I didn't feel like I came back by accident. I felt like I had been pushed back with an eternal weight on the back. The first 24 hours were emotional chaos. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the false prophet smiling. I saw the crowd marching towards deception. I saw churches turning on beautiful lights to hide the absence of glory. And I heard, like muffled thunder in the depths of my soul, 2025 is the harvest, but many have sown distraction. My mother tried to calm me down, but I didn't want drawings, I didn't want music, I didn't want games. I asked for a Bible. I asked for silence. I asked for a candle, not a lamp. Because what was inside me now, it was fire. My Uncle Josh, the same one who almost died with me, came to visit me. When he entered the room, I looked at him and said without thinking, "You need to repent. There is something hidden. Jesus showed it to me." He froze. He started to cry. He later confessed that he had been committing adultery with a co-worker and had not told anyone. He said he asked for forgiveness that same day. And that's when I realized I didn't come back with just a vision. I came back with authority. Not mine, but from him. Of the Jesus who burns, who cries, who is coming back with justice. I saw each person who entered that room differently. I didn't just see the body. I saw the spirit, and many were turned off. Some with sparks, others in complete darkness. On the third day, I spoke to the hospital chaplain. He entered smiling, saying that God is love and peace. I looked into his eyes and said, "The Lord says that you preach a gospel without a cross, and that he no longer recognizes you as a pastor." He was silent. Then he cried. He left the room without saying a word. Days later, I was told that he had asked to leave. This was the confirmation. I came back with a mission, and she wasn't comfortable. It was urgent, and it burned. I woke up in the middle of the night with a strange sensation, as if someone was calling my name, but not with a voice, with urgency. I got up from the hospital bed, still dizzy, and went to the window. The sky was clear without clouds, but it seemed like there was something hidden behind the stars. And then I saw it. Not with the physical eyes, but with the spirit. It was as if a fire clock hovered over the earth. Its hands moved slowly, but not in human time. It was a time spiritual, and he was running out. The biggest hand was dangerously close to the end. I heard the voice of Jesus again. Not in the room, but inside me, like a trumpet that makes no noise but shakes the soul. They think they have time, but the clock in the sky no longer tells years. It tells regrets. I felt a weight on my shoulders, as if something was being poured into me. It was fire, but it didn't burn. It was light, but it didn't illuminate from the outside. I opened my eyes from the inside. From that moment on, I started having visions, not dreams. Awake visions. I saw names floating before me. Names of people I didn't know, but needed to. Hear the message. I wrote them all down. My mother started recording everything in a notebook. One of the names I wrote down, Carlos Jennings, appeared 3 days later as the name of a local police officer who had tried to take his own life. My mother followed. Found the man. He fell to his knees when he heard the name. He said he had asked God for a sign. He said he felt like he was spiritually lost, even going to church every Sunday. He truly converted that day. He cried until he sobbed. Other visions came. I saw burning churches, but not holy flames. These were fires caused by hidden scandals that would come to light. Pastors being unmasked, ministries falling. But at the same time, I saw humble houses shining like torches, homes of true prayer. Ordinary people forgotten being lifted up as last messengers. Jesus said, "The great ones will fall and the small ones will rise. Because the stage will be purified, only the presence will remain." I wrote nonstop. I prayed until my body shook. I cried without understanding why. And every day another part of me was dying, so that he lived more inside me. My eyes couldn't stand the television. My ears rejected certain songs. It was as if heaven had tuned my soul to discern what was his and what was distraction. And then Jesus said something that chilled my heart. Tell them that 2025 is not just a year, it is an alarm, a portal, a dividing line between the holy and the lukewarm. I understood at that moment. The world entered a countdown, and most people are too distracted to listen. But he will use the unlikely, the little ones, the ones burned from the inside. And I have been chosen to blow the trumpet before silence falls. A few days after leaving the hospital, I started drawing compulsively. I was never good at art, but something inside me made me pick up paper, pencil, and start drawing maps. My mother thought I was just venting, but after a while, she started to notice a pattern. The drawings showed specific cities, streets, houses, always with two types of signal: glowing circles, which I called houses of light, and black spots as if they were spiritual leaks, which I called open doors. When I looked at one of the maps and saw our own street marked with a line of light, I froze. I was sure. This wasn't an invention of my head. It was a code from heaven. That night, Jesus visited me in vision. Everything around me disappeared. I was floating over the United States as if my soul was hovering over the land. Each city was like an open wound, some bleeding light, others pulsing darkness. I saw New York as a wall of cracked glass. I saw Los Angeles covered by a brilliant veil, but false. I saw churches like small isolated embers resisting the black wind that blew over the nation. And I heard the words of Jesus, again like gentle thunder. The light that will endure will not be that of the cathedrals, but of the prayer halls. I will no longer dwell on the stage, but in the secret altar. He then showed me the houses of light. They were simple: a room with an open Bible, a kneeling grandmother, a boy praying with his face on the ground. There was no audience, there was no sound, but the whole sky was there. And then he showed the open doors. Houses with the TV turned on at full volume, cell phones glued to their faces, families that said they were Christians but hadn't mentioned the name of Jesus for weeks. I saw shadows entering without being noticed. I saw demons walking among toys, whispering lies in the minds of children and parents, too distracted to notice. That's when Jesus said something I'll never forget. Homes without prayer will be invaded. Homes with prayer will be fortified. Prepare your homes. The next day, I woke up in tears. I sat down with my mother and told her everything. She didn't doubt it. On the contrary, she began to pray out loud every day. He began to anoint the house with oil. We started worshiping together, even if it was just the two of us. And something changed. Our home became lighter, firmer, as if the walls had become shields. Jesus said to me, "In 2025, the battlefield will be the home, and whoever doesn't turn their home into an altar will see it become a trench." I understood that my mission was not just to preach, was teaching families to become spiritual fortresses, because what's coming will not ask permission to enter. It was dawn. I had woken up with my heart racing, my chest hot as if I had a fever. But it wasn't an illness. It was presence. A presence so intense that my body trembled even under the covers. I got out of bed and fell to my knees without thinking. I didn't know what to pray. I just knew that something was about to happen. It was then that the ceiling disappeared. Not literally. My mother slept in the next room. Everything was quiet. But in spirit, I was torn from my home and thrown into another vision. It was the sky over the planet, and I saw what looked like a huge sewing line, cutting the heavens from east to west, as if the firmament had been closed with divine points. This line began to will break. Each point that fell apart released a wave of wind as if portals were opening. From one side they came angels, messengers with eyes like torches and swords made of living words. From the other, they came spirits of confusion, creatures camouflaged with beauty with an appearance of light but whose gaze was cold, artificial. They were what Jesus had shown me before, the glorified deception. Then I heard the sky tear up once and for all. A deafening sound, like a siren that is not heard with the ears, but with the soul. And soon after, the calendar appeared in front of me. But not on paper. It was made of burning clouds. Each month of 2025 spun before my eyes like a divine roulette wheel. Some months went by blankly. Others, they burned. April, July, September, December. These months were surrounded by lightning, as if the sky was marked to act on these dates. I didn't understand everything, but Jesus explained to me. In these months, the separation will begin. The chaff will no longer look like wheat. Then he showed me churches falling like dominoes, while others, small and despised, grew in invisible glory. I saw schools being taken over by spiritual confusion, but at the same time spirit-filled children rising in prayer, healing colleagues, seeing visions. You, far adult chaos, and the awakening the little ones. And then Jesus said, "The great ones will be deaf, but the little ones will hear. I am blowing on the pure, not on the famous." The vision intensified. I saw the White House and a spiritual crack opening in the ground beneath it. I saw world leaders smiling at agreements that looked like peace but were actually pacts of silence against the truth. I saw the Bible being called an outdated book in courts, and crowds cheering. And then I heard they exchanged truth for acceptance. And because of that, they will see what God's silence is. I started screaming. My spirit couldn't take it anymore. It was a lot. Too much weight. A lot of crying. Lots of warning. Jesus placed his hand on my head, not physically but with his presence, and said, "You'll see more, Logan, but today, just say this. The sky is tearing apart, and only those who are burning inside will survive what will fall to the earth." The vision ended with a thunderclap that echoed inside me. When I came back, my mother was kneeling in the living room, as if she had felt everything with me. She only said one sentence, "Jesus spoke to you again, didn't he?" I just cried. Because now I knew. The tear in the sky was not the end. It was the beginning. In the days following the vision of the torn sky, something began to change within me in an even more profound way. Before, I felt like I carried a mission. Now, I carried a key. Not a metal key, but one spiritual authority that made me realize what was real and what was illusion wherever I entered. When I walked through the school corridors, it was as if my spirit identified closed hearts, souls who had the door locked from the inside. And Jesus whispered, "Ring, knock. If they open, I'll come in." One Saturday, I was invited with my mother to a special service at a local church. It was a youth event, loud praise, lights, smiles all around. But when I stepped inside, I felt an icy emptiness. Not because there was no faith, but because there was too much distraction. During the sound order praise, I saw a girl my age crying in the corner. Nobody saw her. Everyone was busy dancing, posting stories, laughing. I went to her. When I got close, her eyes widened and she said, before I could say anything, "How did you know I was here?" I just replied, "Jesus told you to tell you that he heard that cry last night and that no, he didn't give up on you." She fell to her knees sobbing. And at that moment I felt the key worked. That door opened. That same night, the pastor called me to the pulpit. He said he had heard about the boy who died and came back with a message. He gave me the microphone, and there, for the first time, I said out loud what heaven had engraved on me with fire. Jesus isn't coming for a famous church. He's coming for a clean bride. The entire hall fell silent. I saw young people start to cry, others to kneel. Some left, angry perhaps, but those who stayed, they became different. After that service, they started calling me to speak in other places. Small prayer groups, homes, schoolrooms, churches without plaques, people tired of the act and hungry for presence. And that's when Jesus told me about the guardians of the key. There are few, but they are real. People with surrendered hearts. Not influencers, intercessors, not performers, prophets without fame. These will carry the last key before the final closure. He showed me that these keys are not distributed by talent, but by delivery. And each key opens a door where someone can still surrender. But there is a deadline. Jesus was clear. When the last one opens, the gate will close, and then harvest time will come. Since then, every place I visit, I look at the people with a question burning in my mind. Is that an open door or a locked one? And when I find one open, even if it's ajar, even if it's shaky, I hand over the key. Because now I know we are no longer preachers. We are scouts. And the time to hit, it's almost over. Coming back was like falling from a place where everything was true to a world where everything seemed distracting. There was no sound of harps, no magical light, just the cold noise of machines and the thick hospital air, and a body that seemed strange to me, heavy, limited, like clothes that were too tight for the soul that was now carrying something immense. The first thing I felt was the different silence of the world. On the other side, the silence was complete, as if even the void was full of meaning. Here, the silence feels anxious, restless, always wanting to be filled with noise, with notifications, with anything other than God. The voices of the people around me didn't reach me like they used to. Now every word seems to come with a weight hidden behind it, as if I can feel what others don't say, what they hide even from themselves. When my mother asked me, "Are you okay?" I felt her fear before she even smiled. When a doctor said, "You got lucky, kid," I heard the disbelief in his soul, the lack of faith, camouflaged as science. But I don't judge. Only I feel. All. It's as if the world is covered in fog. And now that I've been beyond her, I can't help but notice. People walk, they laugh, they make plans, but their eyes scream. There is a pain contained in everyone. Some call it anxiety, others from tiredness. But I know the real name: distance from God. The weather has also changed. He doesn't run to me like he used to. He money. Every second now feels like a piece of eternity. As if I know I'm closer to the end than the beginning, even though I'm only 13 years old. Everything seems urgent, but not on the clock. In the spirit. Emotions gained another texture. Crying is no longer just sadness. Laughter is not just joy. It's as if every emotion has a hidden layer. When I get emotional, I feel echoes of eternity vibrating within me, as if there was an invisible line between what I'm experiencing here and what I saw there. It's difficult to explain. I look at the sky, and it will never be just sky again. It's like I know what's behind him. I feel the air coming into my lungs, and it feels holy, because I've been to a place where one does not breathe but exists with totality. There are days when I don't want to talk, not because of sadness, but because human language seems too small. Words are fragile to describe what I carry. Sometimes I can only cry, and my mother understands. She just holds my hand. And every now and then I say, "He wasn't smiling, Mom." That's what remained. The image of Jesus' face, not angry, but with a sadness so deep that the whole world could sink inside her. I saw his heart, and now, my heart will never unsee this again. So I walk, breathe, I pray in silence, not to appear holy, but because after seeing what I saw, I can no longer live as if this were everything. I've been on the other side. I saw time running out. I felt eternity breathing. And now, I'm just a boy with my eyes open in a world that insists on sleeping. If you liked this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment on your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time,